The night began with silence. The evening was calm. The city lights were glowing and the streets were full of quiet movement. Cars passed by slowly, voices of strangers blended into the night, and somewhere high above, a rooftop garden waited for two people whose lives were about to change in unexpected ways. Keanu Reeves had chosen this place carefully. He wanted peace, something away from the cameras and the rush of everyday life. He wanted a dinner that was not about fame, not about attention, but about connection. Ana de Armas walked through the glass doors of the hotel with a soft smile. She looked around and noticed how ordinary everything felt, even though it was one of the finest places in the city. The lights were bright but gentle, and the air was warm. She carried herself with grace, but inside her heart, there was a question she could not shake. What did this night mean? Was it just a dinner, or was it something more? Keanu greeted her with kindness. His smile was not heavy, not forced, just calm. He stood up from the table, pulled the chair out for her, and spoke in a gentle voice. "I am glad you came," he said. Those words carried weight, because they were not small talk. They were simple, yet they held the honesty of a man who valued presence more than anything. For the first few minutes, there was silence. Not the silence of strangers, but the silence of two people who respected each other too much to rush the moment. The soft sound of music floated from the corner of the rooftop, where a violin player let every note rise into the night sky. Candles flickered gently on the table, and the glow of lanterns made the space feel both private and endless. Anna broke the silence. "This is beautiful," she whispered. Her eyes wandered to the view of the city below, and then back to Keanu. "You always choose the simplest places, yet they feel magical." Keanu gave a small laugh. "The world is already loud. Sometimes the most powerful things happen in quiet places." As the dinner began, they shared stories. Not the ones told in interviews or magazines, but the kind of stories that carry pain, joy, and lessons hidden from the public. Anna spoke about the times she doubted herself, how she felt lost when people judged her for things she could not control. She admitted she often wondered if people saw the real her or just the image they wanted to believe in. Keanu listened with full attention. He did not interrupt. He did not try to fix her words. He just let her speak. And when she was done, he said softly, "You are stronger than you think. Pain is not proof of weakness. It is proof that you are alive and that you care." Anna looked at him, her eyes glowing with both relief and surprise. Few people spoke to her like that. It was not flattery. It was truth. But then the night shifted. As their food was served, a man entered the rooftop. He was not part of the dinner, not a guest. He looked nervous, almost desperate. The hotel staff rushed to stop him, but Keanu raised his hand and asked them to wait. The man walked straight, toward their table, his face pale, his voice shaking. "I am sorry," he said. "I did not come here to disturb. I needed to see you." He looked at Keanu with eyes full of something heavy, something broken. "You do not remember me, but years ago you saved me. And tonight I had to thank you before I lose my chance." The table fell silent. Anna stared at the man, confused, while Keanu leaned forward with calm interest. The man's story was about to change the entire night. The stranger's truth. The man stood trembling in front of their table, his eyes locked on Keanu as if he feared the moment would vanish if he looked away. The rooftop staff shifted uncomfortably in the background, unsure if they should pull him back, but Keanu raised his hand again. His voice was calm, steady, and filled with kindness. "It's all right. Let him speak." Anna leaned slightly forward, her heart beating faster. She could see the way the stranger's hands shook. His clothes were worn, and his shoes carried the dust of streets that spoke of struggle. Yet in his eyes there was not anger, but gratitude. heavy and almost unbearable. The man took a deep breath. Years ago, I was standing on a street corner, broken and ready to give up. I had nothing left. I thought nobody cared, nobody even saw me. And then you passed by. You didn't know me, you didn't ask for my name, but you gave me food and sat down with me for 10 minutes. You looked at me like I was human when everyone else looked away. I was planning to end my life that night, but your kindness stopped me. I went home with hope. That night changed everything. His voice cracked. He wiped his face quickly, ashamed of the tears. But they kept falling. Anna felt her own eyes sting, and she looked at Keanu, waiting for his reaction. Keanu did not smile, nor did he appear surprised. He looked at the man with deep compassion, as though he had been waiting his whole life to hear this story. "I am glad you chose to stay," he said gently. "The world would have lost something important if you had left." The man shook his head, overwhelmed. "You don't understand. Because of that one moment, I found courage. I found a job, then a family, and now I have a little girl who looks up at me with love. Every good thing I have now traces back to that night. I came here only because I heard you were in town, and I knew I would regret it forever if I didn't tell you." Anna's heart softened in ways she did not expect. She had heard of Keanu's kindness before, stories whispered in interviews and scattered across articles. But watching it unfold in real time was different. This was no myth, no distant rumor. This was raw truth, standing right in front of her. Keanu reached into his pocket and took out a small card. He handed it to the man. "Here," he said. "This has my assistant's number. If you ever need help again, don't hesitate. Life will test you, but remember, you are not alone." The man clutched the card as if it were a lifeline. He nodded, again and again, his tears flowing freely now. He wanted to say more, but no words could match what he felt. With a final bow of gratitude, he allowed the staff to gently guide him out of the rooftop. Silence returned, but it was not empty. It was heavy with meaning. Anna sat back in her chair, still holding her breath. She turned to Keanu, her voice trembling. "You saved a life without even knowing it." Keanu shook his head slowly. "I didn't save him. He saved himself. All I did was remind him that he mattered. Sometimes, that is all a person needs." Anna studied his face, searching for the secret behind such humility. Most people would have turned this into a story about their own goodness, but Keanu gave the credit back to the man. It struck her deeply, because she had spent years in a world where people fought to shine brighter than others. Here was someone who preferred to step aside so others could glow. But before Anna could respond, something unexpected happened. A sudden loud crash echoed from the far end of the rooftop. The violin stopped mid-song. Heads turned quickly. A waiter had dropped a tray of glasses, but in the same moment another figure appeared near the entrance. Unlike the first man, this one did not look lost or grateful. His eyes were sharp, his face tense, and his steps carried the weight of anger. Anna's heart sank. She whispered under her breath, "What is happening tonight?" The night that was meant to be magical was slowly turning into a series of encounters that neither of them had expected, and deep inside, Anna knew this was only the beginning. The shadow of anger, the rooftop felt different now. The lanterns still glowed, the candles still flickered, but a strange heaviness filled the air. The man who had just appeared was not like the first visitor. His steps were sharp, his jaw tight, his eyes searching for something that only he could see. He moved forward with purpose, ignoring the staff who tried to block his path. Anna instinctively shifted closer to Keanu, her hand tightening around the edge of the table. She did not know who this man was, but she could feel the storm he carried inside him. The night that had begun with beauty and kindness now stood on the edge of conflict. Keanu remained seated, calm as ever, his eyes steady on the man. "What brings you here?" he asked softly, his voice low but clear. The man stopped a few feet away, his chest rising with heavy breaths. "You don't remember me," he said bitterly. "But I remember you." The staff tried once more to intervene, but Keanu raised his hand again. "Let him speak," he said. Anna's heart raced. She felt the weight of danger, but she also sensed Keanu's calmness, and that gave her a strange strength. The man clenched his fists. "Years ago, you walked past me. I was struggling, begging for help, and you didn't stop. You kept walking, and I thought the world had no place for me. While you were saving someone else, I was breaking apart. I built my anger on that memory. Tonight, I couldn't keep it inside any longer. I had to come here and tell you how much it hurt." His words cut through the night like a blade. Anna looked at Keanu quickly, worried about how he would react. This was not praise, not gratitude, but accusation. Keanu leaned forward slightly, his expression steady, his voice gentle. "You are right. I cannot remember every moment of my past, but I will not deny that I might have failed you that day. I am sorry. Sometimes, no matter how much we want to, we cannot see every person in need. I wish I had seen you. I wish I had stopped." The man's anger shook against those words. He expected defense, excuses, maybe even arrogance. Instead, he was met with humility. Anna spoke softly, almost to herself. "He's not denying you. He's acknowledging your pain." The man's shoulders trembled. "But do you know what that did to me?" His voice cracked. "I lost faith. I lost trust in people. I believed nobody cared. That one moment shaped years of darkness in my life." Keanu stood slowly, his movements calm and careful. He walked toward the man, not with force, but with quiet dignity. When he was close enough, he placed a hand on the man's shoulder. "I cannot change the past," he said, "but I can stand here with you now. Your pain matters. Your story matters. And even if I failed to see you before, I see you now." Anna's eyes filled with tears. She had seen people argue, fight, and defend themselves endlessly, but she had never seen someone meet anger with so much patience and compassion. The man's face crumbled. The anger that had carried him here began to melt into sorrow. He stepped back, covering his face with his hands. For the first time, he let himself break, not in rage, but in grief. Keanu stayed near him, silent but steady, giving the man space to release the years of weight he had carried alone. The rooftop guests, the staff, even the violin player stood frozen, watching the scene unfold. Anna whispered to herself, "This night is turning into something none of us could have imagined." And she was right, because as the man finally turned to leave, there was still more waiting to unfold. Another twist lingered in the shadows of the night, preparing to test both Keanu and Anna in ways they could not yet see. The fragile balance, the rooftop air felt heavy after the second stranger left. The sound of the city below seemed distant, like it belonged to another world. The candles flickered against the soft night breeze, and the violinist, unsure whether to continue, let silence carry the moment. Anna leaned back in her chair, her thoughts spinning. She had come expecting laughter, soft words, maybe a peaceful evening under the glow of lanterns. Instead, she was witnessing something far greater, something that felt like a test of the human spirit. She looked at Keanu, trying to read his face, wondering how he carried so much calmness when the night had already turned unpredictable. Keanu sat down slowly, his voice gentle but firm. "Every soul carries a story," he said. "Tonight, 2 of them came to meet us. One was saved by kindness, and one was wounded by silence. Both are truths we cannot deny." Anna nodded, her voice quiet. "It feels like this dinner is no longer just about us. It's about life itself showing its face." But just as the night began to settle again, Another sound broke the fragile balance. The elevator at the rooftop opened, and this time, it was not one person who stepped out, but a small group. 3 people moving carefully, almost uncertain if they should be there. Their eyes scanned the tables until they found Keanu and Anna. Anna's stomach tightened. She whispered, "Not again." The first of the 3, a woman with tired eyes, spoke softly. "We're sorry for intruding, but we heard about the dinner tonight. We came because we have no other choice. We need to speak to you." The staff hesitated, looking toward Keanu for direction. Once more, he nodded for them to let the strangers approach. As the group came closer, Anna noticed their clothes, clean but worn, the kind that told stories of people working too hard for too little. The woman's hands trembled as she clutched a small envelope, as if it contained both fear and hope. She placed it gently on the table. "This is not for fame," she said, her voice breaking. "This is for survival. My family is losing everything. I don't ask for miracles. I only ask for a chance." Anna's throat tightened. She wanted to reach out, to comfort, but she also felt a deep unease. The night was slipping further away from what it was meant to be, yet she could see the desperation in the woman's eyes, and her heart broke at the thought of sending her away. Keanu looked at the envelope but did not touch it. Instead, he leaned forward and said, "Tell me your story. Money is not the first answer. Dignity is." The woman swallowed hard. "We worked all our lives, but when sickness came, we lost control. Hospitals don't wait, rent doesn't wait, and the world doesn't stop when you fall. I tried everything, but doors kept closing. Tonight, when we heard you were here, we thought, maybe one door could open." Anna felt tears building. She glanced at Keanu, who sat in silence, letting the words sink in. Finally, he spoke. "You have courage to stand here, to speak your truth. That is not weakness, it is strength. I will not promise you the world, but I will promise to listen and to act in a way that brings respect to your struggle." He signaled the staff quietly, asking them to take care of the group, to bring them food and a place to sit while arrangements were made. Anna watched all of this unfold, her emotions tangled between admiration and disbelief. "How do you carry all this?" she asked him softly, almost whispering. "How do you face so much pain without breaking?" Keanu turned to her with a calm smile. "Because pain is not something to avoid. It is something to honor. When we honor pain, we honor life, and life, no matter how broken, always carries light." The words lingered in the air like a soft echo, touching every heart that heard them. But even as peace began to return, a sudden chill swept through Anna's heart. She could not explain why, but something inside her whispered that the night was still not finished. There was one more truth waiting, hidden in the shadows, preparing to test them in a way none of them expected. The secret revealed. The rooftop felt like a place between 2 worlds now. One world was filled with warm lanterns, glowing candles, and the gentle sound of the city below. The other was heavy with confessions, pain, and unexpected truths that had poured out one after another. Anna sat quietly, her thoughts drifting like waves she could not control. She looked at Keanu, who still carried himself with calm strength, and she wondered how much more the night could hold. The group of 3 had been seated at another table, cared for by the staff, and the rooftop began to settle again. The violinist played softly, as if trying to stitch the broken pieces of the evening back together with music. For a moment, it felt like peace might return. But then, as the wind shifted, another figure stepped forward. This time, the person had not come from the elevator nor from the entrance. He had been there all along, watching from a shadowed corner near the far wall. When he moved, Anna's breath caught. He was older, his face lined with years of struggle, and his eyes were fixed only on Keanu. He walked slowly, with the weight of something he had carried too long. When he reached the table, he placed a folded piece of paper on the candlelit surface. His hands shook as he pushed it forward. "This is my truth," he said quietly. Keanu looked at him with calm respect. "Tell me," he replied. The man took a long breath. "Years ago, I lost everything. My family, my work, my home. I was invisible to the world, but one night I saw you, walking quietly, away from the lights, away from fame. You gave your jacket to a homeless man. You thought nobody saw you, but I did. I was standing in the shadows." That night I realized something. Even those with power and success can choose humility. That image stayed with me when I had nothing. It gave me strength to keep going. Anna's eyes softened. She had heard whispers of stories like this about Keanu before, but to hear them spoken with such raw honesty was overwhelming. The man's voice cracked as he continued. "I wanted to thank you, but I also wanted to confess something. I was angry at you too. I thought, why him? Why does he get to live in the light while the rest of us suffer in the dark? I carried that jealousy for years, even while admiring you. I don't know if what I feel is gratitude or resentment. Maybe both. But tonight I needed to give this paper to you." Keanu slowly unfolded the note. The candlelight revealed words written in uneven lines. "I am still here because I chose not to give up. You were part of that choice. Thank you, even if my heart has been torn between anger and respect." Silence held the rooftop again. Anna felt her chest tighten. The man's confession was heavier than the others. It was not just gratitude, not just pain, but a mixture of both. Keanu placed the paper back on the table and looked into the man's eyes. "Life is not simple," he said softly. "Sometimes we love and hate the same person, the same moment, even the same memory. What matters is that you survived, that you are still here to speak your truth. I don't need only your gratitude. I accept your anger too." The man's lips trembled. Tears slid down his face as he whispered, "I have carried this for so long. I don't know how to let it go." Keanu reached out and gently touched his arm. "You don't have to let it go all at once. Healing is not a single step. It is a journey. Tonight, by speaking, you have already begun." Anna felt something inside her shift. She had expected this dinner to be about simple conversation. Maybe laughter. Maybe memories. Instead, she was watching lives transform in front of her. The weight of it was both beautiful and terrifying. But as she tried to take it all in, a sudden gust of wind swept across the rooftop, strong enough to flicker out one of the candles. The flame died, leaving a thin trail of smoke rising into the night. Anna's heart skipped. She could not explain why, but it felt like a sign, like the night was preparing to reveal its darkest test yet. The darkest test, the rooftop, was no longer just a place of dinner. It had turned into a stage where human emotions, gratitude, anger, sorrow, and fragile hope, were played out one by one. Anna sat still, her hands resting on the table, her heart heavy with everything she had witnessed. The night had already carried more weight than she thought possible, yet something in the air told her that it was not over. Keanu remained calm, his presence steady, his words always carrying gentleness. But even he could sense the shift. The wind that had blown out the candle seemed to carry more than air. It carried a warning. The rooftop door opened once again, but this time the person who entered was not a stranger. Anna froze the moment her eyes met his. It was a face she knew, a face tied to memories she had tried to bury. Her lips parted in shock, but no words came out. Keanu turned to her, noticing the change in her expression. "Do you know him?" he asked softly. Anna swallowed hard. "Yes," she whispered. "He was once a part of my life." The man walked forward with slow, deliberate steps. His eyes were fixed not on Keanu, but on Anna. There was no gratitude in his stare, no sorrow. It was anger, sharp and heavy. "Anna," he said, his voice low but trembling with emotion. "I never thought I'd see you again, but tonight fate has brought us here." The staff moved nervously, unsure whether to intervene, but Anna shook her head. Her body trembled, yet she knew she could not run from this moment. The man continued, his words slicing the quiet air. "You left me when I needed you most. You turned away from me. You chose your path, your dreams, your world, and you left me behind in the shadows. Do you know how much that destroyed me?" Anna's eyes filled with tears. She tried to speak, but her voice broke. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I was lost. I was searching for myself. I thought you would be stronger, without me holding you back." The man shook his head fiercely. "That's the lie you told yourself. The truth is, you abandoned me, and I carried that wound every day. Tonight, I had to face you, because I can't carry it alone anymore." Keanu watched silently, his presence, like a pillar beside Anna. He did not interrupt. He did not judge. He simply allowed the moment to unfold, knowing that sometimes the only way to heal is to let the pain be spoken. Anna gathered her courage. Her voice trembled, but she looked into the man's eyes. "I was young. I was afraid. And I made mistakes. I cannot erase what I did, and I cannot undo your pain. But I will not run from it anymore. If my leaving broke you, then let me stand here and say I am sorry." Silence spread across the rooftop. The man's face softened, but his eyes still carried years of hurt. Keanu finally spoke, his words calm yet powerful. "Anger is heavy. Carrying it burns the soul. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting. It means choosing to live without chains. The past has already hurt you both enough. Do not let it keep hurting you tomorrow." The man's breath shook as he lowered his gaze. He said nothing more, but the fire in his eyes slowly dimmed. He turned away, his shoulders heavy, and walked back toward the door. Before leaving, he stopped and whispered, "Maybe one day I can forgive. But tonight I just needed to be heard." Anna's tears fell freely now. She leaned forward, her face in her hands. "I thought I had moved past that part of my life," she whispered. "But it never truly left me." Keanu placed a gentle hand over hers. "None of us truly escape our past, but we can choose how it shapes us. Tonight, you faced it with honesty. That is the beginning of healing." Anna looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with both sorrow and relief. And in that moment, she realized something. This night was not meant to break her. It was meant to free her. But as she tried to find peace in that thought, a sudden sound from the street below reached the rooftop. Sirens, loud and urgent, echoing through the night. The city was calling them back to reality, reminding them that life's tests were never finished. The final test. The sirens grew louder, echoing from the streets below, bouncing off the tall buildings that surrounded the rooftop. The soft glow of lanterns flickered against the sudden urgency of the sound. Anna sat frozen, her tears still fresh, while Keanu's calm gaze drifted toward the city lights. The night had already tested them in ways they had never imagined, but the world seemed to say, "Not yet. There is one more lesson to face." Moments later, the rooftop door burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in, carrying a stretcher. Behind them, a young man stumbled forward, his face pale, his body trembling. "Please," he cried. "Is anyone here who can help? My father collapsed in the street. We couldn't reach the hospital in time, so we ran here for help." Anna's heart tightened. The young man's voice was filled with desperation, and the rooftop guests fell silent, unsure of what to do. The paramedics called out for space, and the staff quickly cleared an area near the far side of the rooftop. The stretcher was wheeled in, carrying an older man whose breathing was shallow, his skin pale under the lantern light. The son clutched his hand, his eyes filled with fear. "Please, don't leave me. Not tonight, he whispered. Keanu stood immediately, moving closer. He knelt beside the stretcher, taking the man's other hand gently. His calm voice filled the space. You are not alone. Stay with us. Breathe with us. The paramedics worked quickly, checking the man's pulse, preparing their equipment. But what struck everyone most was the way Keanu stayed beside him. His presence steady, his voice soft but powerful. Anna stood close, her hand over her chest, watching the scene unfold. She felt a deep ache inside her, a reminder that life was fragile and unpredictable. The dinner that was meant to be quiet and magical had become a mirror of humanity itself. Joy, sorrow, forgiveness, and now the fight for life. The older man opened his eyes faintly, looking at Keanu as though he recognized him, even through the haze of pain. You're... He tried to speak, but his breath was weak. Keanu squeezed his hand gently. Don't speak. Just know this. You matter. Your life matters. Hold on for your son. The paramedics administered oxygen, their movements urgent but precise. Minutes felt like hours as everyone on the rooftop watched in silence. Finally, one of the paramedics looked up and nodded. He's stable enough to move. We need to take him now. The son looked at Keanu, his voice breaking. Thank you. You don't know what this means. Keanu gave a small nod, his words humble. Take care of him. Never let a day pass without reminding him he is loved. As the stretcher was wheeled out, the rooftop returned to silence once more. But this silence was different. It was not heavy with fear, nor uncertain with sorrow. It was filled with a strange, sacred peace. Anna sat back down, her hands trembling, her heart full. She looked at Keanu, her voice soft but steady. Tonight has shown me more about life than I have ever learned in years. I thought this dinner would be about us, about sharing moments under the stars, but it became something else. It became a reminder that life is bigger than us, that kindness and humility are the only things that truly matter. Keanu gave her a quiet smile. Life writes its own script. We only choose how we play our part. Tonight, we faced gratitude, anger, sorrow, forgiveness, and even the fragility of life itself. And through it all, we found connection. That is the true magic of this night. Anna wiped her tears and finally smiled. A real smile that came from deep within. You're right, she whispered. This night will never leave me. It will live in my heart forever. The violinist, who had stood silent for so long, began to play again. The soft notes rose into the air, carrying the weight of everything that had been said and felt. The lanterns glowed warmly. The city lights shimmered below, and for the first time that night, Anna felt complete peace. Keanu raised his glass gently, his eyes calm. To life, he said softly. To every story, every struggle, every act of kindness that keeps us moving forward. Anna lifted her glass too, her voice steady. To life. The clinking of glasses was soft, but it carried louder than any siren, louder than any pain. It was the sound of two souls honoring the night that had changed everything.